In a desperate bid to balance a grueling career with caring for my pregnant wife, I pushed myself until my heart nearly stopped. In that haze between life and death, I saw them, the pale man and the dark man. The pale man, his unervingly long tongue flickering as he spoke, scoffed. This kid is pathetic. His wife is carrying another man's child, yet he's staying up until 3 in the morning, slow-cooking organic bone broth for her. He literally worked himself to death for a lie. The dark man's voice was like grinding stone. Pathetic, yes, but a debt is a debt. We were asked to intervene. He needs to know about the $300 million in federal bonds and the antiques buried under the floorboards of his family's old farmhouse. The pale man sighed. I know. I actually feel for the guy. Let's put his soul back where it belongs. My vision blurred, and my consciousness slammed back into my body. My eyelids fluttered. All right, you're back. Listen close, kid, and remember what we say. A bone-chilling wind swept over me, making every hair on my neck stand up. My back was soaked in a cold sweat. The pale man leaned in. I forced my heavy eyes open, and for a second, my vision was dominated by that impossibly long, pale tongue swaying in the air. I nearly passed out again. Don't panic, the dark man said, his voice strangely soothing. We're here to help. Your parents and your grandfather sent us with a message. Let's just say they're in management downstairs now. They couldn't reach you in a dream, so they pulled strings to have us tell you about the inheritance. He continued, when your parents died in that accident years ago, it was because they had just found out about the treasure and were celebrating. Their joy turned to tragedy, leaving you an orphan. Now you know the truth. Our job is done. Live well. The pale man couldn't help himself. And for God's sake, Lucas, stop being such a doormat. You sleep less than a stray dog and work harder than a mule. You're lucky if you get 4 hours of shut-eye. No one is built for that. Your wife has been gaslighting you into this hustle culture just to drain you dry. She has you prepping 4-course organic meals a day while she laughs behind your back. All that food you slave over, she and her lover throw it to the neighborhood strays. Don't be a fool anymore. The dark man grabbed his partner's arm. That's enough, Al. We've already crossed the line. If the higher-ups find out we interfered this much, there'll be hell to pay. Let's move. The pale man retracted his tongue and gave me a grim look. I know this is a lot to swallow. Once you've confirmed the truth, light a candle for your folks. And maybe find a woman who actually likes you. With that, they vanished into thin air. The unnatural chill faded. I blinked, staring at the empty corner of the room as my foggy brain began to clear. Earlier this morning, at 7 a.m., my wife, Chloe, had gotten up as usual. Finding her breakfast insufficiently fresh, she demanded I get out of bed to prep a fresh lunch and a gourmet soup. I had been pulling 18-hour shifts all week editing a major film project. I was physically and mentally shattered. I gotten home at 3 a.m., spent an hour prepping her breakfast and setting a slow cooker for her soup, finally crawling into the guest room at 5:00 a.m. I'd barely been asleep when she shook me awake. Without opening my eyes, I groaned, "Just heat up the breakfast, Chloe. The soup is almost done. You can put in your thermal tote for work." Her voice had turned to ice instantly. What is that supposed to be? I'm 3 months pregnant, working my tail off to save for this baby's future, and you can't even handle a little kitchen work? Are you even a man? My chest had felt tight, a dull ache thrumming behind my ribs. I didn't have the strength to argue. I just waved a hand dismissively. It's not that. I don't feel right. I've been editing through the night for days. Just give me. Stop making excuses, she'd snapped. You think you're the only one who's tired? I'm the one carrying a human being. I'm in the office Monday through Saturday, dawn till dusk, trying to give our child a life. You're so selfish. The mention of the baby usually drained the anger right out of me. Looking at her, the woman who had been the it girl back in college, I swallowed my resentment. We'd started dating sophomore year. I knew she had a rough background despite her family's money. A father who ran off with a mistress, a mother who remarried and started a new family, leaving Chloe forgotten. When she got pregnant, there was no family to help her. My parents were gone, too. It was just us. We tried hiring a nanny, but the good ones were a fortune and the cheap ones were a nightmare. She was at a critical point in her career, gunning for a VP spot. So I stepped up. I took over the household, the cooking, and the cleaning while maintaining my own freelance career. I thought that's what a husband did. I thought I was being a provider. Seeing me go quiet, Chloe's tone had softened. Honey, you know a top-tier night nurse is $5,000 a month. If we save that now, it goes toward the college fund. It's for the baby. I nodded, forcing myself out of bed. Fine, I'll make the food. What do you want for lunch? She'd batted her eyelashes. Pan-seared sea bass and those handmade wagyu sliders? Oh, and the truffle mash. Labor-intensive dishes. Every single one. I'd stumbled into the kitchen, dizzy. An hour and a half later, I'd handed her the insulated bags as she headed out the door. The pressure in my chest had become unbearable. I decided to go for a walk to get some air, but as soon as I hit the apartment complex's courtyard, the world went black. I had collapsed, and while my body lay on hospital bed, my soul had been standing right next to it until those two reapers saved me. I replayed their words in my head. Chloe is cheating. The baby isn't yours. My first instinct was denial. Total, absolute denial. Chloe hated infidelity because of what her father did. We had been together for 10 years. There was no way. But then, the cracks appeared. Last year, after we moved into our new place, we planned to wait a few years to build our savings before having kids. But 3 months ago, she came home with a faint red mark on her neck. She claimed it was a holistic remedy a coworker had used to help her sore throat. Before I could look closer, she'd pushed me toward the shower, saying she was finally ready to start a family. I had been so ecstatic to finally have a child that I'd ignored the red flags. Now, the memory turned my stomach. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling over the screen. What'd I even say? Hey, are you cheating on me? She'd just gaslight me again. Then I remembered the treasure under the farmhouse. I put the phone away. If the treasure was real, everything else they said was real too. The family farmhouse was about a 2-hour drive from the city. I ripped the 4 out of my arm and walked out of the ward. I called the Good Samaritan who had found me, a woman named Victoria, according to the nurse, and thanked her profusely, Venmoing her the hospital fees she'd covered. I made my way to the exit, but a sound stopped me dead. A light, melodic laugh echoed near the elevators. I looked over. A woman with a slight baby bump was leaning into a man's arm, laughing as they entered the elevator. I couldn't see their faces from that angle, but the woman was wearing the exact same designer maternity wrap dress Chloe had put on this morning. I sprinted toward the elevator, but the doors slid shut. The display showed it heading to the parking garage. I took the stairs, flying down the flights until my lungs burned. By the time I hit the garage, they were gone. I stood in a sea of cars, my fists clenched so hard my nails drew blood. It was true. All of it. I didn't go home. I rented a rugged SUV from an app and hit the highway. I needed the truth from the floorboards first. An hour later, I pulled up to the old house. It sat on the edge of a sleepy rural town, tucked away from the main road. I drove through the overgrown grass and unlocked the heavy door. The air inside was stale, smelling of dust and old memories. I went straight to my grandfather's bedroom. The dark man had said it was under the wardrobe. I shoved the heavy oak piece aside and started prying up the floorboards with a crowbar. Clang. Metal hit metal. I cleared the dirt and pried open a hidden compartment. Inside were 2 pieces of rare, exquisite blue and white porcelain in a heavy, sealed titanium box. My heart hammered against my ribs. A wave of adrenaline washed over me, momentarily numbing the pain of Chloe's betrayal. I carefully lifted one of the vases. It was wrapped in treated leather, museum-grade preservation. It was a masterpiece, a jaune coeur motif. This single piece was worth tens of millions. The second one, a 100 birds design, was even more valuable. I opened the box. Inside were stacks of vintage federal bonds, perfectly preserved. Even if they were technically expired, the legal chain of custody and the sheer historical value made them worth a fortune. And there, at the bottom, was my grandfather's notarized will and a letter explaining the origin of the assets. $300 million. Between the bonds and the antiques, I was looking at $500 million. My breath hitched. I felt lightheaded, nearly suffocating from the sheer scale of it. Then I thought of Chloe. To hell with her. To hell with the baby. But I had to be smart. If I cashed this in now, it would be considered marital property. I needed evidence of her infidelity first. I needed a clean break, or she'd walk away with half of my family's legacy. I knelt on the dusty floor and bowed toward the window, facing the direction of the local cemetery where my parents were buried. Thank you, I whispered. I won't waste this. I promise. I didn't go back to the apartment until I'd secured a private, high-security storage unit under a shell company name. I locked the treasures away. For good measure, I took a photo of Chloe, ran it through a black and white filter to make it look like a funeral portrait, and taped it to the wall of the unit. When I finally walked into our apartment, I froze at the entryway. Chloe was there, but she wasn't alone. Sitting on our sofa was Julian Vane, the vice president of her firm. He was 30, like me, but he wore a tailored $3,000 suit and carried an aura of inherited wealth that I'd never had. He was feeding Chloe a slice of mango. He looked more like the husband than I did. Julian looked up, his hand pausing mid-air. He flashed a practiced, awkward smile. Chloe opened her eyes, saw me, and her smile vanished. She practically leaped away from him, putting a foot of distance between them on the couch. My vision tunneled. I could hear the phantom sound of my own teeth grinding. Where have you been? Chloe snapped, immediately going on the offensive. She crossed her arms. Do you have any idea what time it is? I've been calling you for hours. I brought Julian over because he's been such a help at the office, and I wanted to thank him with a home-cooked meal. You weren't here to cook it. I am pregnant, Lucas. Am I supposed to do everything? The sheer audacity of it made my blood boil. Chloe had always been a princess. If things didn't go her way, she threw a tantrum. I used to tolerate it because I thought I was lucky to have her. I remembered a few weeks ago when I'd moved her purse to vacuum. She'd screamed at me for 10 minutes about privacy and trust, accusing me of being a suspicious creep. I'd ended up apologizing to her. And it was all a lie. The independent career woman was a fraud. The baby was a fraud. She was carrying a bastard and running a compliance test on me to see how much I'd endure before I died of a heart attack. I walked to the coffee table, picked up her glass of lemon water, and threw it directly into her face. Wake up, I said, my voice low and terrifyingly calm. If you want to eat, cook it yourself. I'm done being your servant. What the hell, Lucas? Are you insane? Chloe screamed, jumping up and frantically wiping her face with silk napkins. You ruined my blouse. Do you know how much this cost? I didn't answer. I just stared at her. I'd been gentle with her for 10 years. I'd never even raised my voice. Seeing me like this clearly unnerved her. Her anger flickered into a brief, guilty twitch of the eyes. Julian cleared his throat, looking panicked. Lucas, man, I think you've got the wrong idea here. Wrong idea? I turned my gaze on him. I think you both know exactly what the idea is. We don't know anything. Chloe barked, stepping in front of Julian like a mother hen. We were just bored waiting for you and playing a game. You're being pathetic and jealous. Julian has a wife. He would never cross that line. Stop being so disgusting. I almost laughed. Cheaters are all the same. They do the dirtiest things and then act like you're the one with a filthy mind for noticing. I didn't call her out yet. I needed the legal leverage. Fine, Julian said, trying to play the peacemaker. Lucas, it's a misunderstanding. Calm down. She's pregnant. You don't want to stress the baby. He doesn't care, Chloe sneered. He doesn't trust the woman he's been with for a decade. He's not fit to be a father. Chloe, Julian hissed, trying to shut her up. But Chloe was on a roll. She pointed a finger at me. If you want this marriage to continue, you're going to apologize to me and Julian right now. And tomorrow, we're going to the courthouse to put the title of this apartment in my name only. Otherwise, I'm leaving, and I'm taking the baby with me. So that was the play. She wanted the house. I had paid the down payment and most of the mortgage. She'd handle the furniture and the car. A Tesla she barely let me drive. You want the house? I whispered. I'm protecting my future, she lied. I think you're seeing someone else. Why else would you be acting like this? I need security for our child. I didn't say a word. I walked to the balcony where an old decorative baseball bat sat in a ceramic stand. I picked it up, weighed it in my hand, and walked back into the living room. What are you doing? Chloe backed away, hiding behind Julian. I'll call the cops. I'll report you for domestic violence. I'm not going to touch you, I said. Smash. I swung the bat into the giant, framed wedding portrait hanging over the sofa. Glass exploded everywhere. Chloe shrieked. Julian jumped back, trembling. I didn't stop. I went for the designer coffee table, then the TV, then the display cabinet. If we were getting a divorce, I wasn't leaving her a single piece of the happy home I'd built. I spent 5 minutes systematically dismantling the living room. It was a wreck. Broken wood, shattered glass, torn upholstery. Just like our marriage. Chloe and Julian were huddled in the corner, paralyzed. They had never seen me snap. I leaned on the bat, huffing, my eyes fixed on them. Do you still want the house? I rasped. You're a monster, Chloe whispered, her lips quivering. She grabbed her Louis Vuitton bag and pulled Julian toward the door. I'm done with you, Lucas. You'll never see me again. As the door slammed, I pulled out my phone and opened the Find My app. I'd installed a tracking share on her phone a year ago when she lost her old one. She never bothered to turn it off. I watched the little dot move. They weren't going to a police station. They were headed straight to the Intercontinental Hotel. I grabbed my suitcases. I'd already packed my essentials while they were arguing, and threw them in the SUV. I drove to the hotel. I hadn't even parked when a woman approached my car and tapped on the glass. She was stunning, cold, sharp features, dressed in a charcoal power suit. I cracked the window. Can I help you? Are you here for the show? Her voice was familiar. It sounded like Victoria, the woman from the hospital. Do I know you? I am Victoria Holloway, Julian's wife. And Technically, I'm your wife's boss at the Sterling Group. She leaned against the door. My security team followed them here. I have the entire floor booked. You want in? I didn't hesitate. We went up to the neighboring suite, which was rigged with high-end surveillance. On the monitors, I saw Chloe and Julian in the bedroom. They were occupied. But what made my blood run cold was a framed photo of me sitting on the nightstand while they did it. Victoria turned up the audio. "Oh, Jules," Chloe moaned. "Don't be mad. I'm carrying your baby. I'm doing all this for us." "You're being reckless," Julian grumbled. "I have the money to buy you a house. Why push for his? If he finds out, it ruins everything." "I want his house because he worked so hard for it," Chloe giggled. "It's my trophy. Besides, I'll wait for you to leave that ice queen wife of yours." "I'm working on it," Julian said. "She's a statue. She hasn't let me touch her in years. I think she's broken." Next to me, Victoria snapped a silver espresso spoon in half with her bare hand. Her face was like a mask of Arctic ice. She pulled out her phone. "I'd like to report a crime," she said into the phone. "Prostitution and narcotics use in the penthouse suite of the Intercontinental. Room 4408. "Yes, I'm certain." She looked at me and tossed me the keys to her Bentley. "You drive. My lawyer is meeting us at the precinct." The sting was perfect. Chloe was arrested for public indecency and suspicion of drug possession. Victoria had arranged for some baggies to be found. At the station, Chloe tried to play the victim, but the detectives, friends of Victoria, leveled with her. "Your husband is Julian Vane?" "No, your husband is Lucas Thorne. And your boyfriend's wife is the woman who owns your company." Chloe's world imploded. Under pressure, she spilled everything. She admitted to joining a toxic online female empowerment cult that taught women how to train their husbands to death while securing their assets. She admitted she'd known Julian was drugging her at an office party and chose to lean into it to get a promotion. She admitted she was trying to work me into a heart attack so she could collect the life insurance and the house. Victoria walked into the observation room. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said to me. "I'm just disappointed," I replied. "Don't be," she said. "The lawyer is ready. Let's finish this." I walked into the interrogation room. Chloe looked up, her face a mess of tears and smudged mascara. "Lucas, honey, he tricked me. I'm a victim." I sat down and slid a laptop across the table, playing the video of her and Julian in the hotel. "I heard everything, Chloe. The plan to kill me. The trophy house. Everything." She went from crying to snarling in a second. "So what? You're a loser, Lucas. I deserved better than a freelance editor. I'm a queen. Only men are allowed to cheat. Screw you. It's my right to choose my path." "Sign the papers," I said, sliding the divorce decree across the table. "You get nothing. No alimony, no house, no car. You walk away with the clothes on your back, or I press charges for attempted murder and conspiracy." She stared at me with pure venom, but she saw the detectives through the glass. She signed. 3 days later, the divorce was finalized. No waiting period, Victoria pulled strings. I walked out of the courthouse and went straight to the bank. I cashed the bonds. I sold one of the vases to Victoria's grandfather, a renowned collector, for $100 million. By the end of the day, I had nearly $400 million in the bank. I bought a $40 million penthouse overlooking the lake. I bought a Lamborghini Urus. I set up a memorial shrine in my new home for my parents and grandfather. But the best part was the news. Victoria didn't just fire Chloe, she blacklisted her. Julian didn't just lose his job. He was indicted for embezzlement and corporate espionage. Crimes Victoria had been documenting for years, just waiting for the right moment to strike. He was sentenced to 25 years. Julian's family, his mother and deadbeat brother, Derek, were suddenly destitute. They blamed Chloe for ruining their golden boy. They forced her into a common-law marriage with the brother, Derek, to keep the Vane baby in the family. A week later, I saw Chloe. I was leaving a high-end club after a night out with my old coworkers. I saw a woman in a tattered maternity dress being dragged by a man toward a waiting car. "Derek, please. I'm your sister-in-law," she screamed. "You're my wife now," Derek sneered. "A guy offered me 20 grand to have you host his party tonight. You're gonna earn your keep." She saw me. She saw my designer suit, my Rolex, and the valet bringing my Lamborghini around. Her eyes went wide. "Lucas, help me." I looked at her, then at my watch. I have a date with the CEO. I called the police as I drove away, just to be a good citizen, but I didn't look back. The story ended in a final, dark crescendo. Driven mad by the abuse and the loss of her beauty, Chloe finally snapped. She poisoned Julian's mother and brother during dinner, and then took a leap from their 15-story window. I read the news while sitting on a beach in the Maldives with Victoria. "You okay?" she asked. adjusting her sunglasses. Never better, I said, clinking my glass against hers. My family's legacy is safe, and I think the Thor name is about to have a very bright future. Story complete.